Hey guys. The Amazing Atheist said he would like me to ask him some questions, and he's going to give me some answers, but then he's going to have some questions for me, and I got to give him an answer. So I said, cool, that sounds like fun. I always like having dialogues with TJ, because they're always so, there's such contrast between us, you know. I obviously believe in God, and he doesn't, but when we have conversations, they generate a lot of interest. People really like seeing what goes on between us. So, TJ, if this turns out well, I know you said ask you 5 questions, but I'm hoping if things go well and people say, keep going, we could do this either more often, and I know you and I were kind of getting a little more friendly last time we had a conversation, you know, just like, hey, how you doing, man? So, anyways, I just want to ask you some questions, and I look forward to your answers. Then you're obviously going to respond.
Now, if you take me up on this offer, here's what I vow. If Venom Thing X himself participates in this challenge, I will not ever personally insult Venom Thing X again. I will never call him an idiot. I will never call him a moron. I will never say a bad word about him. Now,
fine-tuning and design is very likely if there's a designer. Fine-tuning and design is not likely if there is no designer. Therefore, fine-tuning and design supports the existence of a designer. That's a fair enough argument, I think. Now, the question is there design in the universe? And this can go for many different things. We could talk about the design of galaxies. We could talk about the design of planets. We could talk about the design of life, or even the laws of physics and the laws that govern everything that exists in the universe. Are these things designed, or do they appear to be designed? Well, I look at my face. I got nice designed teeth. They're symmetrical, for the most part. I think I'm, you know, fairly good looking. I think humans are fairly good looking. Good design, I think. I think it's a good design. Even if you contend that they're not designed, which I suppose atheists would, the fact is they do appear to have good design. I mean, if you look at Mount Rushmore, you say, well, those were designed. Wind and erosion didn't make that. They were designed. But you look at the real thing, the real Abraham Lincoln, and a lot of people say, well, that's not designed. Well, I don't think that's logical. I think it's an atheist bias, really. So, here's the argument, and I want you to tell me, TJ, if you think it's a good argument or a bad argument, and why. Fine-tuning and design in the universe supports a designer of the universe. Theism. It's not necessarily the Christian God, but a God. Fine-tuning and design in the universe does not support atheism, or it is very unlikely if atheism is true. But design is very likely. In fact, it's not even a matter of likelihood. If there is a God, he willed it, so it is. So the argument again, fine-tuning and design supports and is very likely, more than likely, if there's a God. Fine-tuning and design is not likely if there is no God. Therefore, fine-tuning and design supports the existence of God, which means it is reasonable to believe a God exists when we're looking at this universe. So, TJ, is that a good argument? Why? And now do you see why it is reasonable to believe in God? Why you can't fault people for looking at the universe and saying, there appears to be design, therefore, designer. Is it the Watchman argument? Maybe. But it's refined. It's a little bit more, it's constructed in a more logical way. What do you think? Let me know. Okay. Here's the next question. It's kind of the same question, but a different argument. Is this a good argument? If so, why? Why not? Tell me what you think. I believe the universe had a beginning, and I'm going to make an argument for it. Actual infinites cannot exist. An infinite past would be an actual infinite. Therefore, there could not be an infinite past. How do I prove it? Hilbert's Hotel. Imagine you try to book into a hotel that has an infinite amount of rooms. This is an actual hotel with an infinite amount of rooms. Could one exist? I don't think so, because actual infinites can't exist. So imagine you go to the hotel and you're like, well, you're the guys with an infinite amount of rooms, so you must have room for me. And the guy says, sorry, we have an infinite amount of guests. We have no room for you. All the rooms are full. So you're like, And the guy at the counter says, I have an idea. We're going to move the person in room number 1 to room number 2. We're going to move the person in room number 2 to room number 3, person in room number 3 to room number 4. We're going to make room for you. So everyone moves over one room, and there's room for you all of a sudden. But how did they make more room for you without adding another room? They were full before you came. You can see it's illogical. It's a contradiction. So actual infinites cannot exist in reality. They don't make sense. Because an infinite cannot be a number. You can't have an infinite amount of finite things. So in order for there to be an infinite past, you have a Hilbert's Hotel problem. How could there be an infinite amount of events before right now? How would we reach this moment in time? Etc., etc. Therefore, the universe had a beginning. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. Whatever caused the universe to exist, meaning the universe previously did not exist, has to exist without the traits of the universe. So if the universe is made of matter, time, and space, that means whatever created the universe exists without matter, time, and space. So something immaterial, that is inspatial, which means omnipresent, it's everywhere, that is eternal, that always existed and is uncaused, caused the universe. That sounds like God to me. TJ, do you believe that evil exists? Do you believe that evil exists? If you do, who defines what evil is? If you claim that evil exists, okay, then how can you say evil exists without a moral standard to violate? And if you say, well, I make the standard of morality, well, what's evil to you might be good for another person. So like, for example, Hitler again, he thought it was good to kill the Jews. It was bad for the Jews, okay? But if there's not a higher power saying it's wrong to kill the Jews, then it's all subjective, which means there's no evil. So the next question I'm going to ask you, is there evil? And if you say there is, okay, I would argue that you need an objective moral standard, which means you need a God to say there's evil. My next question is, if there is a God, and the Christian God, what evidence would you expect to see that you don't? And if you say, I would expect to see perfection, not evil, I would simply argue that you need to appeal to the God of Christianity to even say that evil exists, because you need a moral standard in order to say what is good and what is evil. So what evidence are you expecting to find of the Christian God that you don't see? Don't say you expect perfection, because remember, the Christian God explains why evil came into the world on the first page. He says he gave man free will. I know I've said this before, so I'm going to say it very quickly. He gave man free will to choose to love him, but love must be chosen freely, otherwise it's not love. But to give someone choice to love means you're also giving them the choice to not love. And that's where evil comes from. People choosing freely to not love God and do unloving things. So evil then is defined as an act against the will of a loving God. So what evidence would you expect? Don't tell me perfection. There was perfection in the beginning, which is why we see design. And that design is now decaying from the fall, from mankind's disobedience to God. So what evidence would you expect? Would you maybe expect a Bible? You know, people saying that they met Jesus Christ, he performed miracles, died, was risen from the dead, rejected by his own people, as the prophecies foretold by the prophet Daniel before the destruction of the Second Temple, and he's going to return in Jerusalem on the Mount of Olives as foretold to a people who've rejected and pierced him. I mean, it's all in here. Anyways. Question number 4. Question number 5, TJ. If someone was to prove the existence of God to you, be it myself or someone else or maybe a video, if I could prove the existence of God to you, okay, would that interest you? And if you came to believe in God, would you then delete all the videos you've made against God and apologize and then use your popularity to, you know, spread the good news? I think you would. I think you would. So maybe you don't have to answer that. So then, if you don't need to answer question number 5, let me make you one additional question. This will be the last one. Question number 6, TJ. Atheism is a belief based on the lack of experience. You've never had an experience, an actual experience where you said, therefore there's no God. Okay? But people have experienced God, like the testimony of Scripture or in my own life. I can't really explain everything that's happened to me right now because we're at the end of the video, but people who believe in God, by the millions and millions and millions, claim to have experienced God, which is why they believe in God. So it's a testimony from experience, versus the atheist who has had no such experience, who then says the people who believe in God are crazy because they've had an experience that they haven't had. So atheism is an argument from the lack of experience. Now, Is that a proper way to argue? Is that really a good way to build a worldview from a lack of experience? Do you have a right to say, I didn't experience God because you haven't? Okay, if the Bible's true, that means all of it's true. Now, as an atheist, you must be wondering, well, if the Bible's true, why haven't I experienced the Christian God? What's going on? There must be something wrong. Well, if it's true, then this must be true. And ye shall seek me and find me when you search for me with all of your heart. Now, TJ, can you honestly say that you've searched for God with all of your heart? No, you haven't. You've made a YouTube account where you've encouraged hundreds of thousands of people to disobey and disbelieve. You're not searching. So if the Bible's true, and that's true, then that's why you shouldn't be perplexed that you haven't experienced God, because you're not looking for him. Anyways, God bless. Look forward to your responses, and maybe we could do this again. I'd like to do this with you more often. God bless.